I'll be quick.
Hi, I'm David with EV World News. We talk about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. I'm here today with our engineer, Mike Herzog. How's it going today, Mike?
Doing all right, David. Reporting in from the home location after our blizzard last night.
Yeah.
A lot of rain, a lot of wind, not too much snow. But
no, I don't know if we're really qualified for a blizzard. I was out at about 7 o'clock last night driving, and I was like, well, it's windy, there's a little snow, but the people who don't know what a blizzard is will think of that. I've been through blizzards in North Dakota, and and it's a different experience. It's like somebody's taking white bed sheets and throwing them on your hood, like constantly throwing them on your hood, and occasionally you can see and sometimes you can't, but just this blanket of white. I mean, it's not like it, sometimes when it's like last night, it looked more like you're in the Millennium Falcon and you're going hyperspace, and you see all of the white flakes coming by really fast, but that doesn't blind. You can still see everything. Right.
I can't imagine North Dakota up there in the plains and in those spaces. But around here we'll get it where it's, well, I can't see the house across the street. Every once in a while. That's a whiteout. That's
pretty, oh yeah. Well, you can't drive in that. No. And that was what we'd get up there. That didn't happen often. I really only was caught in one once. Okay. You try to monitor the weather and have that not happen. But so I want to start out today. I got kind of a funny article. So Rivian, now can sell their trucks to places other than just Amazon. Or when I say trucks, they're vans.
They're vans.
Amazon vans. So
what you expect to see driving down with the Amazon logo.
Yeah. So you see the Amazon van coming, it's a Rivian. It doesn't say Rivian, but for those of us who follow EVs, we know that it's an electric van. Like I saw this picture of Ben and Jerry's, and I'm like, hey, that's an Amazon van right there. That's a Rivian van if I ever saw one. Yeah. So, anyways, that's their thing now. They partnered. I don't know where they're delivering ice cream.
That they opened up to everybody in the market, because I have to imagine
it's been about 3 months. It's been 3 months.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not been very long, but still, it's such a well-tested vehicle.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at all of the data they have to have from all of those vans driving and it's really weird to think about how now, versus 20 years ago, you put out a car, you wait for people to tell you, well, it did okay, it did this, give you reviews.
Yeah. But now, for 6 months, it put 10,000 miles. Here's what it was. Yeah.
But now it's like, okay, we drove and the van stopped 200 times today. It only covered 25 miles total, and it had an average speed of about 2 miles per hour. Okay, but it had a max speed of 60 when it was coming back on the highway, on Highway 370. Yeah, and it's just cool. The amount of data that they have in Teslas, Rivians, and I assume other auto manufacturers are learning how to do this too. But it's just it's interesting to see how that space is working now.
I can see that van now that it's open. I mean, that's HVAC, plumbers, and anybody local that has any type of fleet. I mean, it's made for that. You're not covering a lot of miles. It's doing that. It's low maintenance. It's got plenty of space in the back. I mean, I can see a lot of people starting to develop those, or at least taking a real hard look at it.
Yeah, the South by Southwest event is happening in Austin, Texas this week, and they're showing off the van there. So apparently that's the prototype. I mean, it's not like Rivian doesn't have tens of thousands of Amazon vans running around
every day.
Yeah, but they're going to have it at events in Vermont, which has been in Jerry's home state. It's based on Rivian's commercial van, which was launched last month in the US. Okay. You may have seen the Rivian electric delivery vans for Amazon But after ending its exclusivity agreement, Rivian is now open to other partnerships like with Ben and Jerry's. Let's see. Rivian and Ben and Jerry's reduce our reliance on fossil fuels in a small way while making things a little bit cooler, which as an ice cream company is extremely difficult to do. Oh man, here's a
Yeah.
really here's a picture that's going to be really weird. Okay,
Okay.
so here is that same van with no logos on it. I've never seen just a white
I
version
have
of
not either. This a
it.
white
I mean,
paneled van. That's a
it,
Rivian.
it, it looks so strange without the Amazon logos or some kind of graphics on it, doesn't it? I mean, we see the Amazon ones. It'd be surprising to go a day without seeing a Rivian
Yeah.
Amazon
Oh
van.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I see, R1Ts and R1Ss occasionally.
Yep. I see those.
Not anything like in the amount I see Amazon vans, though. You
Oh,
know,
not even close. Not even.
yeah,
Well, there's a person in my office space who drives a R1S, so I see it all the time. It's like, okay, so maybe I'm a little. I got confirmation bias. One of
yeah,
those. Hey, I see one every day. It's
right, right.
same guy.
But there's two sizes of the vans. One's 80,000, one's 84,000. The larger one has 652 cubic feet.
Mm-hmm.
It says extra space. I don't know what the smaller one has. I wonder if the article. Oh, it doesn't tell us. But still, I thought that would be kind of
It is cool.
a fun
That's
thing to talk about. It's
just
definitely
that white panel van. I mean, I can see every HVAC company's logo on the side of that. Burton or
yeah.
whoever else is driving around. Like,
Yeah,
looks like a
like
huge
I
deal.
said, the drivers I've talked to that work for Amazon that have had to drive both the petrol versions and the electric ones feel they're being punished if their company makes them drive one of the gas-powered ones because it's so much harder to do their job. The electric vehicle just the fact that you have the fob, you just walk away from the vehicle,
Yeah.
nobody can steal it. You
Nobody
walk
can steal
back
it.
and
Walk
press
back.
the eh,
Just press your foot down and go. Yeah.
with the gas one, they also have to engage the parking brake every time they stop. They have to, they have to put the keys in, keys out.
It's
The
what, it's interesting. Like when you do that 100 times a day,
yeah,
how much those little tiny things will add up over time.
mhm.
I mean, that's yeah.
Well,
I
think
see
about
it.
engaging the starter
Mhm.
100 times a day.
Yeah.
How often must a starter burn out
Yeah.
in a delivery vehicle like that?
Or you just leave things idle and burn the gas, burn the diesel.
Yeah,
I mean, it's much better application. Great application for that van.
yeah, and the Rivian comes with heated seats too, so
Ooh, there
a
you
lot
go.
of drivers like it, and they can leave the air conditioner going even with the vehicle turned off. So that's a nice feature for the drivers as well during the summer. So climate control is much better
Yeah,
in those.
it's cool.
All right, so we're still going to stay on the topic of Rivian. Rivian is unlocking more range, power, and new rally mode for EV drivers for the low price of $5,000. So they've got a
Rally.
$5,000 software upgrade you can buy for your R1S or R1T. I don't know how I feel about this. I'm sure owners they're seeing this. It's like, really, $5,000 Rivian, really? Um, it just it just seems like an opportunity lost. They're currently number one in owner satisfaction of
Rivian?
vehicles. Yeah,
Mhm.
Rivian is, and it's just although I've had a friend, he was complaining to me because he wants a standard USB port. He says they have USB-C all over the damn thing, but they don't have just a standard USB port. Not sure what
I
he's trying to do.
I can echo that. Like my Audi, it's got one maybe. Otherwise, the rest of it's USB-C, and it's just one. There's one just plain old standard port. Which, God, what are you like $5? In production cost or something
Right.
to add more ports in a vehicle. Just
Yeah, that was my friend's complaint about it. But for 5 grand, the performance upgrade boosts horsepower from 533 to 665. So that's the next another 132 horsepower and increases torque from 610 to 829. Now that's a pretty big boost. You get sport and sand mode for better performance and control in different terrains.
Okay.
The added power drops the 0 to 60 from 4.5 to 3.4.
It's pretty good.
You know,
I mean, you'll feel that. That'll put you in your seat.
yeah.
And it's just a software update?
Yeah.
Firmware or hardware, not hardware, I guess, but firmware, something like that, where it's just we need to reprogram it. And that's crazy.
It simply unlocks the battery's potential for added range. No, so let me see here. The $5,000 might be something they're speculating, because later in the article it says that that no price or official launch date have been revealed. So I'm not really, or maybe there's something coming. Who knows what it is? They did just cut lease prices by $200 in February. You can get an R1S for $590 or an R1T for $599 per month.
That's not bad.
No, not for an $80,000
For a
SUV.
luxury vehicle. I mean, that's
Yeah,
upper
yeah.
end. Like that's not bad at all.
Oh, it isn't. That seems like a pretty decent deal. So you got that really good lease deal, then the flip $5,000.
Yeah, you
Oh
want
well.
it to work a little bit better. I'm trying to think of the analogy in my head of all the software message. Buy this packet, add this for $299 more. You can add this extra feature.
Well, like if you're putting some kind of supercharger on a gas car, and
Yeah.
you're putting a whole lot of extra equipment on a gas car to soup it up. $5,000 doesn't seem like that's a
No,
drop in the bucket, right?
yeah, that would
You
not
know,
be a bad
I
thing.
mean, street racers frequently are putting $30,000 to $50,000 into those cars.
Yeah. No, so it's just it's a tough sell for me when it's click on
so
your phone. Do you want to update this package for $5,000? Push a button and we'll push the software update through.
we'll just hit
Very
your credit
different.
card. It's
Yeah.
no big deal. We'll just hit your
Yeah, you
card
want
for you.
easy pay like Apple, double click. You can,
Yeah.
just do it. It'll go right through.
That's kind of funny. Oh well, I just thought that was, an interesting little article. All right, so let's go to my main article and see if we get any hate over this one. So, was I on with you when we were talking about how the GSA is shutting down 8,000 federal charging stations?
I'm not, no.
Okay,
We didn't talk
so
about that.
here's what's going on is they've decided that the electric charging stations for the federal government are non-essential, and the plan is to get rid of all the government's EVs and switch them to gas cars.
Okay.
And it's going to cost $1 billion to take out the chargers and backtrack on EV adoption. And I don't know. I'm not really 100% certain. So some of this comes from Jalopnik, and
Mhm.
I think they're kind of trying to cast some shade on Trump. I know that the GSA did order for them to stop using the 8,000 chargers. As far as removing the 8,000 chargers, that wouldn't make any financial sense
That would
at
just
all.
it would truly make no sense. It would truly
Yeah.
make no sense.
Why would you spend that money to remove the chargers? One of the problems with chargers are kind of like laptops. There's a market for a used laptop, but if you're going to go buy one, the new ones have so much more.
Yeah,
It makes
so
sense
much more features and
right, to just get a new one.
I agree with you. I mean, unless you got a heck of a deal on salvage for the action, but
No,
I don't think you would. I just don't think you would.
I've seen some surplus deals on large quantities, let's say 100 plus superchargers,
Mm-hmm.
but the ones I saw were like 180 volt.
Really?
So that, the current standards are anywhere from 350 to 8, all the way to 800 volt.
All the way up to 800 now.
Yeah, and so the 180s, simply they probably canceled the order because they probably decided they wanted to put in
Because they saw all
350s
the new
instead.
stuff coming out and said, "Well, this is obsolete already." Like, yeah, that's
Yeah,
why
so
we have it.
I would imagine that all the federal government's ones probably are 180 volt, or they're level 2 chargers or whatever. And a level 2 charger you can pick up for like $300-400.
Yeah,
It's
you
not
can go
like,
get a brand new one on Amazon. Yeah, for a
yeah,
couple $100.
yeah,
It's not bad
they're
at all.
cheap. It's their main cost is going to be the electrician. It's
Yep.
going to be the service work. So it doesn't make, um, this is funny. Look at all the viewers for, yeah, you're, I don't know which, one of our, obviously you're on a YouTube channel, but we're on multiple YouTubes, and
Mm.
we're, on a bunch of other places too. Yeah, anyways,
Yeah.
um, yeah, well, here's a problem with that, Chris. So there's not been a federal mandate, but there's been a bunch of stuff with the EPA as far as emissions, which effectively was like a mandate. Okay.
Mhm.
But you've got 12 states or 13 states that are adopting the California EV mandates, and the federal has no effect on what the states are doing. So there's a whole bunch of states that are still mandating a transition to EVs. I don't know if it's 2035.
That's what
Is that what
California was, wasn't it?
California, I think, is supposed to be 2035. I still think that's a little
Mhm.
ambitious. I still think, um,
That's well, just that. I mean, vehicles are durable goods, so any new ice powered vehicle is going to be on the road, in 2035 and 2040 and everything. And
right.
I know it's new vehicle sales and what they're looking at, but it's such a long cycle to get through vehicles and to move through vehicles.
Well, even Musk said that even if you mandated that everybody switch, all new car sales were to transition to EV today,
Mm-hmm.
that you'd still have gas cars on the road probably till all the way till 2050.
Oh yeah, at
Because
least yeah.
people keep fixing them and making them run. Um, oh man, I'm sorry to
Mullen.
hear that, Chris.
Ooh.
I mean, you probably heard me talk about Mullen. I think they're a company that I think that on the EV side of things, they're so bipolar. I really don't know how to express um, what those guys are doing. And as much as their stock has sucked, I just can't imagine how the same guy keeps remaining a CEO. Okay. I just can't. I even have talked to some companies before. It's like, hey, if you guys would buy 10% of this company, which wouldn't be a big stretch right now because their market cap is so low, I'd go on the board for you, you know,
Yeah.
and be on their board of directors. Okay. Um, I mean, I can't think of the guy's name, but I'm friends with him on LinkedIn, and man, he just gets blasted on there for people like Chris who've lost their
Who
ass.
lost every
I
yeah.
mean, I mean, if you were an early adopter, you lost 99% of your investment. Okay. I mean, that's, yeah, David Misery. That's it. I was thinking he had the same first name as me. I just couldn't remember it. But yeah, I mean, it's just criminal. Some of the things they've done with dilution. I mean, they've done some good things. They bought Nicola's battery division, and Nicola just went bankrupt for like the second time. Um, and they bought GM's Hummer facility in Indiana. They are producing um, some um, larger electric trucks in Tunica, Mississippi. And there's getting to be some demand for that. They're doing some things. But then they started releasing, like, well, we're going to put out a sports car, we're going to put out an SUV and all this. And it's like, really, their space is the commercial trucks. But yeah, they need to replace Misery. That's the only way you fix that company. The other alternative is one of the big three automakers. Just buy up all the damn stock and then get rid of Misery. I mean, I don't know what you do about the whole Mullen situation. Bill was in Go EV. I mean, we liked Canoe. I mean, Canoe seemed like a good company, except I was always slamming them on here because they spent more on private jets than they were making in revenue. Um, I had a real problem with that. I mean, obviously, if you're running that company, you shouldn't be charging for private jet service. If you
If
have
you're
your own
in
private
the
jet,
red,
you
yeah, if you're
shouldn't be billing
underwater,
it to the company. There's
yeah.
something just didn't compute there. Fisker, Bill's friends with Henry Fisker. Um, yeah, just another one that just they never figured out manufacturing. Um, Mullen's one that can be saved, but they need a CEO change, and I just don't know what to think. I mean, if I were in Mishry's situation, I'd cut my hair at least. He's got long hair. I mean, I could see it if he was successful like Elon Musk or something like
You
that,
can
but
be
it's just,
eccentric. Yeah.
yeah, or he could be a little eccentric, but he's just, man, I don't know. He's trying to look like Gene Simmons. He looks a little like Gene Simmons. That's the best way I can explain it. Now, if Gene Simmons was running the company, it'd probably make the stock go up, though.
It would. Yeah, there you go.
Maybe that's the
Custom
intent, is
colors
they're
and
trying to get
paint
Gene
jobs out
Simmons to
there.
come in. Um, yeah, you're right. They should have been delisted to OTC. They've somehow managed to stay on NASDAQ. But what I don't know if you know this, Mike, but due to COVID, you see, you used to have to stay above $4 a share. Okay. But during COVID, they lowered that number to $1. And sometimes companies will drop down to like 50 cents, and they'll just keep giving them warnings. They won't delist
They
them.
won't actually delist them.
Yeah,
I don't follow that stuff that closely, but that's really interesting.
NASDAQ has a pretty, like if you try to go public on NASDAQ, the NASDAQ fee alone is $400,000. Okay. Whereas if you went public on like the Toronto Stock Exchange, is 25,000, and you can go public. Now, this isn't what it costs to go public. This is just the fee to the
Just the
listing
fee to,
service.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Those are not
It's
ringing
not
in the numbers,
fully
but
inclusive.
I usually tell people who consult with me that I can take your company public on the NASDAQ for 1.2 million, maybe, including the 400,000 fee. But I could probably get you public on the Toronto Stock Exchange, which is still mostly American companies, but it's legitimately in Toronto, Ontario. It is a Canadian stock exchange, but the fee is only 25,000. We can get it done for about 750,000, probably. Okay, it's a whole different ball game, and you have to have a minimum of about 40 million in revenue to go on the Nasdaq, and they don't have the revenue restriction on the Toronto. Now, there's ways to get around the 40 million on the Nasdaq. You could simply have 100 million in cash. Okay, so if you have tremendous assets
Sitting on a
in
bunch of
cash, the
assets.
short-term assets, you can go public as well on the Nasdaq. So there's like 4 things, and if you qualify for any of the 4, but usually what happens is you have a business, it's ongoing, you're making money, and you get above that 40 million annual revenue, boom, you're a good candidate.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah, but you also need to have, after you go public, you have to hold on to like a year's cash reserves. And this is why a lot of times you see people say, this is like the problem with Nissan right now. They're saying Nissan's only got 6 months of cash reserves right now. And so that's why there's this fear of them going bankrupt. Okay. And then why they've been trying to do this Honda merger and all this other is because they just have the runway.
Cash.
But for a while, Mullen that we were talking about had a year's runway. But they keep getting people to dump in a bunch of cash. But what happens is they dilute people like Chris. And when I say dilute, so his stock, where, all of a sudden it'll go from being worth 1% of what it was, it'll be worth 0.5% of what it was. And because they gave away so much ownership to these people who
new entrants, yeah.
Yeah, and it's really a bad look. And one of the things too, David Mishry sold a lot of his own stock and did some different things, and he's actually really made out personally over this deal. Okay, and it shouldn't be people like Chris who get screwed by people like David Mishry. So I've tried to get David Mishry to come on the show. I've had Mullen people reach out to me to get maybe like a VP or something on here, and anytime I reach back, we're never able to get a date set up. So I think they're, it's funny because I have publicists for them that'll reach out to me, and I don't know. I'm not running hit pieces on them. I'm legitimately, there's nothing I'm saying that there's not 1,000 other people on the internet saying,
Mhm.
okay, about Mishery. So I just, I just don't have much hope for that. But like I said, they keep getting money invested in the company. So the company keeps functioning. Doesn't look like it's in danger of closing its doors. But anyways,
Interesting.
let's,
That's all. Yeah,
but
that's fantastic background. That's a lot of great information.
yeah, but I came onto this discussion because we were talking about the EV charger. Getting rid of the chargers
Mhm.
makes no sense. Um, One of their things is, it was a second part to this article. Stellantis calls for tariffs on cars with no U.S. parts.
Mhm.
So they've got these new tariffs going in on Canada and Mexico and China and all that, but Stellantis. So there's very few cars that are entirely made in the United States. Tesla's
Yeah.
about it. Okay, I remember one time some police departments were looking for the most American-made car, and this was pre-Tesla, and it was Volkswagen was the most American-made car. I mean, it wasn't
Yeah,
something,
yeah.
and I don't
That's
think they really
funny.
wanted to buy Jettas or something like that for a police car, but it looked like the Pulizai over in Europe, right?
You just change the siren frequency too. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
good.
but anyways, it's an interesting thought of, most American manufacturer cars still have some US content, right? That was even the thing with the EV. Be able to
Mhm.
get the $7,500 EV credits. They
Have you
wanted
have
some
me?
of the batteries made in the United States. Well, even with all the work the Biden administration did with the various bills they passed to get battery manufacturing in the
Mhm.
US, some of that has ramped up, some of that is ongoing, but um, it's really not been enough. So it's funny. I had somebody talk about, well, get all the EV incentives to go away and the EV sales will plummet. Well, the problem is on the EV incentives, they don't apply to about 2/3 of the car EVs in the United
Yeah, yeah.
States.
Just because they don't qualify from the material standpoint. We
Right.
see that a lot in our industry too. The Build America, Buy America Act, and
Yeah.
it's so hard, to find, especially when you get in specific electronics and things like it's. God, nobody makes it. Like it's made in Malaysia. Like that's
Right.
the only
Well,
place it's made, or somewhere in Southeast Asia.
this was really frustrating during the pandemic. Was there was all this call for masks and gloves? Nobody in the United States makes those. Now they do now. There are some
Mhm.
now, but I'm afraid those companies now will go out of business because they still can't be price competitive with
No,
Malaysia
no.
or
Yeah.
China, and it just doesn't seem right. There has to be some protections for U.S. manufacturing. I think medical manufacturing is critical to the United States. So
Critical.
there should be some tariffs on the medical products made overseas so that it's financially viable, even if it's the Chinese company coming and making it in Texas. Who cares? It just needs to be made in the United States so that we have that ability to
Yeah,
do
yeah.
that.
What for when that if and when that happens again. I mean, I agree. I think there's a lot of critical infrastructure, emergency infrastructure, critical manufacturing items that there's ingrained incentive to make that domestically. I mean, we want to control it. We want to control the supply chain. We want to be able to mass produce that and shift those processes if we have to. Yeah, I completely agree. But it's on
Yeah.
the car stuff. I think I had heard, some of those, especially in automobile manufacturing, there can be a piece of equipment that changes a different motor 3 or 4 times, sometimes 5 times, where you
Oh, wow.
import material from this country, you manufacture a little bit of it here, you ship it to Canada, they bolt on a couple of parts, it gets shipped to Mexico, you bolt on a couple of more parts before it's finally used. So you can have a kind of a single piece of material that just goes back and forth and ping pongs around, and it's really hard to untangle all of those when it goes through.
Yeah, no, there's no question. But, obviously, I'm very pro US manufacturing. And, but at the same time, You look at how cheap Chinese cars are. Well, how good would that be for the consumer in the United States? It'd be terrible for the workers at the U.S. Big Three if BYD could just come over here and just sell their cars for $10,000.
Yeah.
Oh God, do you imagine? What can of worms that would open up? I mean, you you know here's the thing though, like Ford. What does Ford sell? They sell pickup trucks. They've got a couple of SUVs.
One
And the
car.
only car, the one car, the Ford Mustang is the only car they make anymore. Okay. You don't have any more Escorts, Crown Victorias, Tauruses. All those cars are gone. And it's because they make money on the big stuff. And because people will pay a premium for the big stuff, so that they make premium profits on those bigger. Now, we've talked about this one before. What car company? Okay, so the car company that makes cars that makes the most profit per car in the world is Ferrari. Okay,
Makes
but
sense.
who's number two?
Tesla?
It's Tesla, which is an American-made car. Although, in truth, the bulk of Teslas are not made in the United States. The bulk of
No,
Teslas are made in China
China.
or Germany. Okay, so they sell a crap ton of them in China and Germany. Their sales are hurting right now because of, I think it's mostly because of Musk. I don't think it's just because there's more and more
I
competitors
don't
in the
think,
space. I
I think,
really think it has to do with Musk hate. But it's, it's wild to see. Tesla can survive without they could
without,
lower their prices.
yeah.
They could lower their prices to make up for the lack of EV incentives, and the other companies can't do it.
Well, and that's a real interesting conversation about 3 or 4 months ago people had when Musk basically advocated for, like, yeah, the incentives can go away, the rebates can go away, we'll be fine. We don't want to push that. But we thought, there's an EV guy who's going to be sponsored. Well, his company survives. Like, they can afford that. They can make the
Mhm.
sales. They can be cost competitive, and it's playing the market. Hey, if my competitors need this to survive, like, okay, like, get rid of it, and then I can play in the sandbox by myself again.
Yeah. So, Chris, um, you're comment about the SEC. So, one of the reasons I first started following Mullen wasn't because of EVs. It was because I've written some stuff before about naked short sale attacks on the stock market. Okay. One of my clients was burned by a naked short sale attack, and I've really watched more and more companies get this. So basically, if you're trading on the stock market and you decide you want to short a stock, which means you are essentially saying, I am going to say the stock is going down instead of going up. You're betting against the stock. Well, you have to, as a private investor, you have to put that money up. So if I'm shorting a stock that's $100, I have to put the $100 up in case the stock goes the wrong way, and I can get closed out. Well, what's happening is some institutions, hedge funds, different things, have been able to do this without having to put up the collateral. Okay. And so they've done these naked short sale attacks, and it's happened a lot of times. We saw this with Greenland Tech. Now, that guy, when they did the naked short sale attack on him, he had enough personal wealth. He bought the stock back up above, and he sued all the short sellers. Okay. So they all lost big time. They all lost their shirt because they didn't realize that he personally had the money to fix the stock
Mhm.
market on their stock. Okay. Because it's not got a huge market cap, and he was personally able to fix it. And I really commend him for that. Although I've had people that, so there's there's a guy that runs Greenland Tech. His dad runs another company that gets a lot of criticism, but that company makes some autonomous, um, it looks like a coffin that drives around with wheels that makes deliveries. I really don't, I forget what the name of the company is, but anyways, his dad is the CEO of that company. Um, but Greenland is a much more company I can get behind. They make electric, like front end loaders and other things that are good for having an EV in your yard, meaning, on your job site. Um, and yeah, naked short selling is a huge problem. So anyways, this is how I found out, um, I was looking at different companies, and Mullen was the one that popped up as having just had a naked short sale attack. And so a lot of how their price got driven down below $1 initially before was some really some stuff that wasn't Mishery's doing. Okay, so he's been a victim of that, but that was probably out of the 100% drop, that was probably 20% of it. The other 80% is all Mishery. Okay, so he's got that little piece he can say was an outside influence, but the rest of it's him. Okay, but this naked short selling, FinCEN and the SEC, they're not going after people who have been doing this, and it's a real problem. And the only thing I can assume is that they're backed by too many Congress people or senators or powerful people that are making money on this, because it keeps happening in the stock market. It's really a bad scene. I don't know if you remember a couple of years ago, Musk was complaining about Bill Gates was short selling Tesla. And he said, if you're supposed to be real big on the green energy space, what are you doing, putting up billions of dollars to short our stock? And because they do things when they're shorting it, they try to release news saying that you're doing this bad or this, or
like you're falling off a cliff. And yeah.
Well, what they'll do is they'll short and they'll file some lawsuits. They'll launch a bunch of lawsuits from some different firms that shows that you're in all this legal problem, and so it'll make news that'll cause the stock to drop, and so then your short makes money.
Creating the story to make it drop. Interesting.
Yeah, it's really, I don't know. There's even some platforms out there for trading that don't even allow short selling. Okay, it's such. I've done puts and stuff in options, but I've never, and the whole idea of doing a short sale, just, you either believe in a company or you don't. Just because I don't believe in a company doesn't mean I'm going to short their stock.
Bet against them.
Yeah. So now when I've done puts and calls, though, it's more 1 or 2 day trades, and you're looking to get in and out pretty fast. You're just looking for a change in short-term momentum on the stock to make some smaller amounts. It's a little different than holding something long-term, but shorting is just an ugly business. But I've seen it really harm some companies, and sometimes it takes the stock. Say you got a $15 stock, after dealing with the short sale attack, a bunch of them are now a $5 stock. And so what it does is it resets the market on that stock, and it'll sit there for the next year or two. Yeah. Chris is being very explanatory. Short selling requires a margin account. Most retail investors can't afford the risk of infinite losses on credit. But then what he and I are talking about, this naked short selling, why it is supposed to not happen, is because they're being able to do it without providing the margin. They're not providing the collateral for the margin, and it really is just a bad scene. Remember the thing with GameStop a few years ago, where it became like this? The Reddit people traded it way up high. Well, it screwed a whole bunch of short sellers.
Yeah, that was the idea. There was behind it, right?
Yeah, that was kind of the idea behind it, was they wanted to screw these short sellers. And then you had even people like Robinhood that stopped the trading because these naked short sellers were complaining to them, and they really made people that's the thing. It's like these retail investors shouldn't be able to affect the market that much, and yet they did. And to a certain degree it was poetic justice to see it done. But I'm not criticizing all the Reddit people for doing what they did. I'm just saying that I don't know. It's just a bad scene, and it's just scummy, and it gives a bad feel to the stock market. And I really, I don't know. It's tough. You're in a stock and it gets hit by one of these things, you're just screwed. And there's not a lot you can do. Anyways, Chris, we appreciate your commentary too. Anyways, all right. Let's get on to one of our wild topics that Bill suggested, since Mike's an engineer, and this is too big brain for my small bird brain. And so this article, it comes from IEEE.org. Okay, so this is an engineering article. We're charging our cars wrong. Now, I read the article, and my basic thing was, in the short version of this, we're going to take out something that's $50,000 per cable, but what keeps you from getting electrocuted when you charge your car. Okay, that's how I read this. So, anyways, can you give us more of a
It
long
is,
form
and
version of this?
so I'm a proud IEEE member. It's the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers. So just about not every, but most electrical standards, equipment, everything like that, they write the papers. They fund research. They do all kinds of stuff. It's the big brains in the business putting these things down and actually writing standards on things. So they engineered it. I mean, and this is the kind of stuff I like to see. I talk about it a lot. Innovation with an uppercase I and a lowercase I. And this is a bunch of engineers that sat there and said, "Hey, why are we putting this piece of equipment on the charger when it already exists in the car?" And it's doubling down, and it's saying we have this redundant piece of equipment in there. Hey, if we do crazy engineering stuff, I shouldn't say crazy, but really complicated engineering pieces, and like, well, if you shift this here and connect this wire here and move this around here and do this a little bit different, like, you can avoid this piece of equipment, and electrically it's exactly the same. So it's cool in my world to see people looking at that and getting into the actual guts of power electronics and figuring out how those things work. But yeah, I just reading the article, it said, why do we do these things? Well, because we want to improve efficiency. And yeah, this piece of equipment keeps you from getting shocked because the car can't be grounded, because that's the dog's getting excited about the topic. The car can't be grounded because it sits on rubber tires. So you have to come up with a different grounding path for the way these things work. And it's saying like, well, it's on the car already. Like, can't we just use that? So it's complicated, but really, really interesting when you get it. But it's more indicative of, here's all of these other things that are happening in the background. We talk about car brands and big innovations, and boy, you can get 600 miles, on a charge now, and it's getting this much faster. But there's all kinds of lab-based engineering and weird stuff happening in the background where people are doing this innovation with a lowercase I of saying, yeah, we can, on a $400,000, $500,000 installation, we can shave 10% off the top of it and try to make it a little bit more efficient.
Well, it was more than 10%. They were more like about 40%.
Oh yeah, because it's 50 per charge.
Per charge handle. Yeah, it was like, and I'm just like, that's a big savings for just a small chance of being electrocuted. Can you just imagine? That'd be the next thing. We remember about a year ago, we covered some topic where people were pouring water on the charging handles and putting a cloth, they put a cloth on there, pour water on there so to cool down the handle in the heat during the summertime in Arizona and Texas, and it would charge certain Teslas faster.
Yep.
Okay, like quite a bit faster. It wasn't just a small improvement, but it was a significant improvement in charging speeds. And we're just like, oh yeah.
You read that article, and that article was written for me. Like an engineer. Yeah. Oh yeah, here's the circuit diagrams. Cool. Like, that's how it works. But on the surface, why do we do this? Well, for efficiency and so you don't get shocked. We think we can take out the part where you don't get shocked. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wait, here's how, rearrange, connect this dot, connect that dot. And look, we just took this piece out of it.
Yeah. I keep looking at this one. It's like, oh, you're just holding the charging handle and you're grounding the car. Yeah. Nothing like just sending a big shock through the person charging the car, right?
And this is specifically for the higher voltage charging too, and the kind of
the superchargers
where you actually have dangerous levels of voltage in there. Like, that's okay. This is not, you have to.
This isn't 110 we're talking here. This is far beyond 110.
Oh yeah. No, this is that 480. This is, I mean, 110 will kill you if it takes the wrong
Hmm.
path, but 480 will kill you. I mean, that's not a good thing.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I just I found this. It was interesting, and Mike, uh, that Bill thought you should explain this, but it says galvanic isolation costs a lot, and it worked out to basically per charging handle in superchargers, it's about $50,000 for every single supercharger, and if you could eliminate that, you'd get more, charging stations set up.
And,
And
and it is, and like at the highest level, like most power electronics, like the way the grid works, your home, everywhere, like you're able to ground both sides of things. But because
Mhm.
it's a car on one side and it's sitting on rubber tires, like you can't, that side is not grounded. So you get stray currents, you get things looking out there for that are, it needs a path, and if you happen to get in the way of that path, it's not going through the car, it's going to go through you.
So your level 2 charger is 240 volt, right? 220, 240, something like that. And but you have something like this that's far cheaper, on a far cheaper scale for that. So when a level 2 charger costs, say, $300-400 for a single port, for your house, um, that's not counting installation, that's just the hardware. You must have some type of isolation device on it. But yet when you go to the next stage, it costs, just for that component,
Yeah.
$50,000.
It's as your voltage increases, that price tags go up quite a bit. That's why, like, high voltage transmission lines, things like that. One, it's a safety concern, but it is so much more costly to put in those devices to be able to handle everything like that.
Do the wireless. Yeah, I've wondered about that. If it's raining, does that just electrocute pedestrians that are walking, they're nearby? I mean, yeah, I was, that was a thought I actually had. Um,
Yeah, I'm just getting into the nerdy electronic stuff. I mean, it's like electromagnetic coupling. So it's, you got to have the right turns ratios. You have to have the right things. Otherwise, that stuff just floats out into the ether. You got to have the right formula to connect it on the other end to accept that. So maybe, I don't know, if you're wearing like 10 belts or something like that, or have real fancy jewelry, maybe that'll fit that bill too.
all right. Well, we're going to cover something random today. Um, we'll cover India a little bit. India had 667 e-buses registered in the first 2 months of 2025, with a company called Switch taking first position on these buses. That's a lot of damn electric buses, 667. Obviously India's 5 times the size of the United States, and they don't really, people don't, public transportation is far more popular there than it is here, and as two-wheel and three-wheel transportation.
Oh yeah,
Okay,
oh yeah, yeah.
and trains and any kind of public transport, but that is a lot of units being added. Um, let's see. Switch delivered the most, 213 units, and another company
Mhm.
called Electra Green Tech and PMI Electromobility each did 125 units. But
That's wild that it's multiple companies. That's great. That's a lot of people jumping in the pool.
yeah, they had 9 e-bus companies sell at least one electric bus, like Tata, which is we know of because they own Jaguar and some other brands. They were 5th with 65 buses. So there was 4 companies doing more than
Wow.
them. These are all, I'm assuming Switch is an Indian company, but they're all 9 companies are Indian manufacturers. Um, in 2024, India registered 3,616 electric buses. They have 41,000 diesel buses.
Okay,
Okay, so they got a long
that's great.
ways.
That's great perspective. Like, how
Yeah,
many buses are in India? Like, that's
yeah. Um, the total bus market, including all fuel types, reached 48,000 units. So 3,600 electric out of 48,000. That's
that's not a
about
small
9%.
percentage. Yeah, I
About,
mean that's not insignificant, and having a delivery of 600, like that's not a small percentage. I mean that's a good deal.
I think somebody needs to go outside.
I think so. I think he's losing it over
Oh,
here.
we're about to be done with the show. So, anyways, folks, I want to thank y'all for all watching. We got to let Mike's dog take a break. And, anyways, Mike will be back with me next Wednesday, and I'll be back with Bill tomorrow. Yeah, folks, thanks for chiming in, and we will see you back here tomorrow.